Okay, I figured out how to combine all three of these different instruments into one sampler instrument with the Logic environment. So basically, bongos, if I would do like a low and a high, hitting F2 and G2 on my MIDI keyboard. If I use just the lowest impact drum, hitting C3, and if I use concert toms, it's like D, F, A, C, E, G, in that like middle octave, and I'm trying to combine all those three voices into one instrument on the lowest part of my MIDI keyboard so that I can access it with the 16 drum pads like a sampler. So the first thing is open your Logic environment. And it gets messy real quick in here. So here I'm going to go to all objects, and I'm going to view by text, and I'm going to drag this stuff over here. And we're not going to use a lot of these things here, so I'm just going to kind of like grab them and like put them out of the way, because like the environment gets so messy real quick. And I'm just going to kind of space this out a little bit. Okay, so when you're here, what you're going to do is you're going to create basically like this input view for your input notes that goes into your sequencer. I'm basically going to kind of recreate that a little bit for like a sampler instrument, and I'm going to have a monitor that goes into each of these, and I'm going to connect it with the cable. So I'm going to go new monitor, and I'm going to put that right underneath the impact drum, and then another monitor here for my bongo sound, and another monitor for my concert. And then you can see here, this is my concert tom, and I'm going to drag that cable right there to concert tom. You can see now they're connected, and I'm going to do that same thing here with all those other ones. So now each monitor is connected to each channel strip of those instruments. Then new mapped instrument, and when you do that, it's going to automatically click this. I'm going to close that for now, but if we do this mapped instrument, and I'm going to zoom in again on here. So this first one, I'm going to drag to my first monitor, and you can see it's, yes, just hit remove, it's fine. This first cable is going to the first monitor that goes to my impact drum. So like numbers are important here because that comes in handy later. The second cable, I'm going to drag over and go to my second monitor, which will go to bongos. And then my third cable, I'll drag it to my third monitor, which goes to my concert toms. All right, let's open up this. I'm going to double click on here, and let's talk about this real quick. This says input name, which is, you can like, obviously you see all those things. You can change it to whatever you want it to be. The output note, I'm not going to change the velocity or the channel right now. I'm going to really focus on output note and cable. And the cable is referring to right here 1, 2, or 3. 1 being the impact drum, 2 being the bongos, and 3 being concert toms. And right now, default, everything's on number 1. And now I'm going to start changing some stuff. Okay, so on C1, my lowest note on my MIDI keyboard, I am going to change that. I already did to tom number 1. And C sharp, I'll do tom 2. Just to be organized, I'll do tom 3. And then my D sharp, I'll do tom 4. And I'll do that as my lowest notes there. Tom 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then if I go back over here, my concert toms are coming from the third cable. So I'm going to go here to C1, move it over, and then that 1 I'm going to change to a 3. And I'm going to do that for all 4 of those tom notes. So now if I come back over here and I'm hitting any notes on my keyboard, you can see that the monitor is picking up the MIDI information of that channel strip. And then super easily, it's actually pretty intuitive, this right here, this output note on C1, when I play, sorry, where am I? There we are. When I play this note, you can see the information is getting sent of C1, but I'm going to output the note. I'll do A2, and then that would be C3, E3, and then G3. And then now, when I play this note, oop. Oh, that's A3. I'm sorry, I messed that up. So let's go back down here. So it's going to be A3, C4, E4, and G4. And those are just... So now if this is C1 on this MIDI keyboard, and you can see here, like, I am going to hit my keyboard, and you can't see any information coming in from the monitor, but you can see information coming in through my input notes right here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to close out of this, and I am going to create a channel strip for my mapped instrument. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit external MIDI. And then I'm going to change this from Studio 4C up to mapped instrument. And now if I hit the lowest trigger pad on my sampler, you'll see that would be triggering C1, and then number 2 would be C sharp. You can see that my mapped instrument is also triggering this tom here. D natural, and then D sharp. Those are my 4 toms. I'm going to open up my environment one more time, and this is where it gets cool. So here is the monitor for my concert toms. If I'm hitting this, it's triggering A3, which is that lowest tom that I'm using. And if I move up here to my input, you'll see it's triggering C1. So the MIDI information C1 is outputting the MIDI information A3. And now let's finish the rest of these. So I only have, in my mapped instrument, I only have tom 1, 2, 3, 4, A3, C4, E3, and G4. Here you go, those are the toms that I changed. So let's keep going. This one I'll do impact drum, and I'll do 1, and that I believe is C3, and my impact drum is coming from cable number 1. So I actually don't have to change that here, because impact drum C3 is coming from that output note as a C3. So if I hit, there we go. So like right now, here's my monitor for impact drum. It's outputting a C3 note, and I'm still inputting E1, which is pad number 5 on my sampler. And let's do another one. I'll do here. Do impact drum 2, and let's do E3, just a little bit higher. Again, I don't have to change the cable because it's already all on 1. So now you can see it's going to go C3, E3, going back and forth. I'm just hitting pad 5 and pad 6 on my sampler. And you can see it's going between E and F on my input device. And let's do bongos. So bongos is coming from cable number 2 right here. Number 2 all the way over monitor number 2 up to bongos. And let's do a low bongo and a high bongo for the next pad up. Bono. And that's going to be output for this one. I just have this memorized because I've been trying to do it all day. So F2 and then G2. And now I have to change both of those to cable number 2 because that is what's coming over from here. So now if I'm hitting, this is going to be pad 7 and pad 8. It'll see F2 and G2, but here it's going to be F sharp and G sharp, which is again the lowest part of my instrument. It's actually triggering F2 and G2. So now if I go on my sampler, I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On my sampler, it's going to go low toms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 impact drums, and then a low high bongo. And you'll see the different channel strips light up as I go. There you go. So that's how you can map different instruments into your own sampler instrument using a bunch of different VDL channel strips.